Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Marcos here at Amada Senior Care. Thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate your time. And I recognize a lot of the names here that are joining here on the webinar. A lot of you guys are joining because we reached out to you via LinkedIn. And you were brave enough to click on our LinkedIn InMail and say yes and learn more about Amada Senior Care. And here you are. What I know about you guys as well is a lot of you come from medical device pharmaceutical sales. That's not by accident. You're either from Merck, Pfizer, Abbott, Stryker, Medtronic, companies like that, because we are looking for you. So out of the 147 Amada locations in the United States today, 85% of them are run by former medical device pharmaceutical folks from Stryker, Abbott, Pfizer, Medtronic. If you go on LinkedIn, in fact, and you look for Amada Senior Care folks, you'll see a lot of folks from companies like yours. Now, I know some of you, I don't recognize some of the names, so some of you guys maybe from not from medical device pharmaceuticals. We still love you. You may have found us online through a website search, or you're looking for a new business. So you're welcome to be on the call as well. And what I'm going to do today is tell you how we differentiate from our competitors. This is a really important topic because there are over 250,000 providers of home care in the United States. That was according to a report in 2018. 250,000 providers of home care. That's a lot. And the industry was over 97 billion in 2018. So it's a huge industry. So in my opinion, you can't just walk into this industry and say, hey, I'm really nice, I'm gonna work really hard, and I'm gonna hire the best. It's not enough because everyone says that. Everyone says you're gonna hire the best. Everyone says they work really hard and they're the best company to go with. So differentiation strategy will matter. And so as we go through differentiation strategy, you'll be able to identify if you are the right entrepreneur to execute that strategy. Now, we believe that if you have a background of sales, business development, and you are comfortable going and calling on referral sources, that you very well could be the right person. But we'll talk about differentiation strategy as our main thing during this entire call. I'm going to cover as well a little bit about the financial side of owning an Amada Senior Care business, because I know this is top of mind. So what is the initial investment? What is the franchise fee? How are royalties charged? And you think about Amada in the same way that you could think about a Jersey Mike's or an Orange Theory Fitness or a McDonald's franchise. All these franchises already have packaged what is the initial investment, because like I said, we've opened 147 Amada locations already. We know the cost, we know what it takes. So I'll share a little bit of that with you. But differentiation strategy is going to be our main conversation. My name is Marcos. I am the Chief Development Officer for Amada Senior Care, and I joined Amada back in 2012 when we decided to start franchising. And just a quick note about that. It was accidental that we started franchising. There was a friend of ours in Washington. His name is Robert Christensen. And he had been at Pfizer for 13 years. And he was getting his severance. He knew he was going to get fired, get his severance. He was super excited. He had survived many layoffs, but he was excited to get a big check from Pfizer. So he called us up and he said, hey, I'm getting fired. I want to start an Amada Senior Care here in Washington. And we actually told him no. We said, well, we're not a franchise. We're just an Orange County organization, and we don't have any plans of franchising. We told him no. But Robert was very insistent, and he actually flew out in 2011, 2012, and he said, we got to do this, we got to do this. And so Robert became our very first franchise partner in March of 2012. I don't know if Robert hadn't been fired from Pfizer, who knows if he would have started the franchise or not. But now, back, this is 2012, 2022, we are now in 147 locations throughout the U.S. In 2020, we grossed about 118 million as a company. So we're super, super proud of that growth. And in a way, we owe a lot to Robert to push us into starting the franchise. So differentiation. In order for you to understand how we differentiate, that's where we're going to spend the most amount of our time today is going to be on that. Let me talk about what it is that we do. So let's put the base layer is, what is our business? And it can be confusing because a lot of people hear the words home care, home health, hospice, assisted living, all these words that talk about senior care or senior health care, and it's a little confusing. So here's what we do. Number one, we send non-medical caregivers to seniors' homes to take care of activities of daily living: dressing, bathing, walking, grooming, toileting. We're not doing things like wound care, shots, therapy, medical equipment. That's not our service. Our service then is provided by non-medical caregivers that go to the senior's home and take care of those 5 activities of daily living. Our caregivers get paid anywhere between 9 to maybe 17 bucks an hour throughout the country. Depends on where you are, depends on the caregiver's experience, if they have a CNA certification, but they are not nurses. You could hire a nurse, but she or he will not be working in the capacity of a nurse. Again, they're doing dressing, bathing, walking, grooming, toileting, those kinds of services. So anyway, they get paid 9 to 17 bucks an hour. We are billing anywhere between about 24 to 36 bucks an hour. Again, depends on where you are, what kind of services you're providing. Here in Orange County, for example, we're billing at an average of 34 bucks an hour. When we started the company, we were billing about 18, 19, 20 bucks an hour. So you can see how wages have gone up and the cost of care has gone up as well. However, what's interesting is we do not struggle at 34 bucks an hour to find clients. And what that tells you is obviously we're good at what we do, but it's not really that. It's the fact that caregiving is not a luxury. Caregiving is a need. If it's 20 bucks an hour, 34 bucks an hour, most people who need a caregiver are just thinking, it'd be wonderful if his mom had a caregiver. It's more, oh my gosh, mom needs a caregiver right now, tonight. And so it's a big need. So that is business number one. Business number two is we also staff those caregivers inside of hospitals and skilled nursing. Usually when you start the business, you'll start with just a home care side. As you grow, if you get a roster of caregivers going, then you could also staff those caregivers inside of a hospital or a skilled nursing facility who need our caregivers. See, caregivers are a lot of the folks walking around in scrubs in hospitals and skilled nursing are caregivers because they're less expensive than nurses. So they can do things like turn the patient, get the patient to the bathroom, wheel the patient down the hallway to go to the discharge. So they need caregivers, but hospitals and skilled nursing really struggle to hire a consistent team of caregivers because caregivers work part-time for the hospitals, they come and go, they got crazy schedules. And so all throughout the country, there's been this trend, it's been happening over the last 10 years, where the hospitals and skilled nursing just go to companies like Amada and say, you know what, here, listen, we need 50 caregivers for the month, or let's say, 200 shifts covered in the month of, we're in March, right? They're planning for March right now. And so they'll come to Amada and say, Amada, you just take it. Here's the shifts we need. Here's the times that we need. Here's the expertise we need from your caregivers. Go. And we take care of it. Then they don't have to do the training, the hiring, or the licensing that we have. We have a special license to be caregiving, a caregiving company, which is a license hospitals and nursing don't want to have if they were to hire the caregivers themselves. So that's business number two, staffing caregivers in hospitals and nursing. Business number three is not the caregiving at all. But business number three is helping the family find the next best thing to a caregiver, which is helping the family find the right assisted living community, facility, or home. I'm not talking about helping the family find the Medicaid, sad, stinky wing where people go to die. I know it's a horrible way to say it, but that's how some of these are really awful. Some of these government paid Medicaid places, and it's just, we just don't have all the money to make these places amazing. Those places don't need our help because those people go to the hospital, the case manager sees that this person has no funds and you're going to have to go for end of life into the Medicaid wing, and they just go there, right? They don't need our help to do that. But a lot of families in the United States, they're looking for a caregiver. They're trying to figure out how to care for mom and dad. And they don't know that what they could do instead of a caregiver is have mom go to Oakland Living or Silver Shores Assisted Living, all these places throughout the United States that range from $3,000 a month to $30,000 a month. It can be a little single family home or a community or a big facility. Some of these places have, dinner menus and movie nights and bingo and different activities. Some of them are small little homes. But the great thing about these places is that they can fit the financial needs of the family. So for example, and this will give you an idea of our business as a whole. So a lot of times you meet with the family, you've been called in, the family needs caregiving, and you've identified, along with the physician, the case manager, the social worker, the whole family, we've all identified that mom needs 24/7 care. There is no way that mom can survive if she doesn't have a caregiver next to her 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Well, if you do some math there, 24/7 is at a baseline about $15,000 a month. So there's families where you'll meet them and they'll look at you and go, you got it. What? $15,000 a month. You're crazy. And it's not just Amada, that's home care. That's the cost. And we weren't willing to just look at the family and go, well, sorry, you can't afford us. Because it takes a lot of compassion to do what we do. It's not about the money. And so we would tell the family, hey, it's okay. It's okay if you can't afford the 15,000. Let's help you find the next best thing, because there are these places where mom can go. They average around $5,000-6,000 a month. We can find a little cheaper, we can find more expensive, but we can find these places where mom will go and live there. She'll either have her whole own room, or she'll have a roommate, or let's find out what the needs are. And when we started doing this, we were doing this for free. It was just the right thing to do. But what we found is that the assisted livings pay us a commission usually equal to first month's rent when we bring them a family. So if it's $3,000 a month to live there, or 5 or 7, we could get a commission of $3,000, $4,000, $7,000 for that first month's rent. And we stumbled onto that business. We had no idea it existed. We were just doing the right thing. And so we do placements now, and we call it placements or assisted living placements. Now that is less than 1% of our business. The vast majority of our business, well, 99% of our business, is home care and staffing caregivers inside of hospitals and skilled nursing. Now, I told you we'd talk about differentiation strategy, and this is not differentiation. This is what we do. There are companies in the United States that just do placements. There are companies that just do staffing, companies that just do home care, companies that do all of it. So it's not what differentiates us. Now, the differentiation strategy I want to share with you is what I believe our franchise partners are taking out to the market and being able to create this kind of revenues that they are. In our franchise disclosure document, you'll see this report that it shows the average revenues of all our franchise partners in year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5. You can go all the way across. You look at the high, the low, and the median. And so you'll get all the data. But I can tell you right now, so our franchise partners are averaging 1.2 million in gross billings by the 3rd year in business, 4.9 million by the 5th year in business, which we're super, super proud of. And the industry margins, this is according to industry publications, the net profit of our industry is around 10 to 25%. And if you think, mathematically, 10 to 25% is a huge range, because if you're grossing $1 million and your net is 10%, 100 grand, or if your net is 250,000, those are, life-changing numbers in a way, but it's a good start. What you will also do throughout this process is we're going to give you the phone numbers to every single one of our franchise partners, not like 3 or 4. You'll have the phone numbers to every single one of them. You'll be able to call them, and there's not a franchise partner I wouldn't, I recommend that you call. And you'll be able to talk to them and ask a little bit about, okay, what does the gross profit look like? What does your net profit look like? Even with paying royalties and all that. And so you'll be able to talk to them. What's great is for a lot of you guys, because I recognize your names here, a lot of you guys come from medical device pharmaceuticals, you'll be able to speak to other folks that were just like you, who were Merck, Pfizer, Abbott, Stryker for 20, 25 years, who decided to start Amada Senior Care businesses. So you'll be able to get a good idea of what the income potential looks like in our industry. But it's also, I think, to give you context about this differentiation strategy I want to share with you, Kevin and Logan Outerbridge are sort of a quintessential franchise partner. They were both Medtronic reps, father and son duo in Jersey, Passaic County. They founded Amada Senior Care in 2018. And just a lot like you guys, that we sent them an in-mail on LinkedIn. They said, oh, what is this? So they looked at it and they researched. And in 2019, they started their Amada Senior Care. They quit their jobs at Medtronic. Medtronic or Stryker, I can't remember now. They quit their jobs and they both went full-time and started Amada Senior Care in Passaic County. In their first year of business in 2019, they grossed 2.1 million in gross billings, 2.1 million in gross billings, and realized that 2.1 million gross billings is the highest anyone has ever grossed in Amada so far. No, that's the record. So I am giving you the best first year revenues. We've had folks do 30 grand in their first year because life happens. But my point to you is they achieved that, I believe, and if you speak to them, I think they'd confirm that they achieved it through this differentiation strategy that I'm going to share with you. Now, I highly, not only the differentiation strategy, but also who they are, right? The experience that they have, the careers that they had, the training that they received from medical device pharmaceutical companies that they had worked with was huge in that differentiation strategy, and also how hard these guys worked. I mean, it was a crazy year. I would never want you to come off any of our calls with us saying, this is easy. No, it's like any business you would start, it's really hard, right? So they had to work extremely hard to be able to do those kind of revenues. But my point to you in giving you context is that I believe they would tell you that it was this differentiation strategy that I'm going to give you that they deployed to be able to become successful in the Jersey market. Okay, so So and listen, for those of you who may not come from medical device pharmaceuticals, we have Ken Jensen, who is our franchise partner in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and he was a Merrill Lynch stockbroker before Amada. Still very relationship driven, still the kind of guy who enjoyed going out and meeting with referral sources, but not healthcare experience whatsoever. So it's okay if you don't have that background. So now, when we talk about differentiation and understanding it, it's important for you to know, now that you know what we do, important for you to know how we get paid. Also, a bit of a confusing topic. So let me launch a quick poll here for you guys, and love to get participation. See, where's my polls? And here we go. So, does Medicare cover what we do? So substantially, does Medicare actually cover what we do? And what we do, meaning, let's say that my dad, who's 80 years old, needed a caregiver. My dad is in Texas. He works for a university in Texas. He's a professor. He loves teaching. He wants to die in the classroom. I actually was just with him a couple weekends ago. I said, Dad, you got to retire. But he doesn't want to. And so if my dad was in the hospital and the physician comes in and says, hey, Edison, you're being discharged. You're going home. My dad is excited. He's like, yes, I'm going home. I hate being in the hospital. But my mom says, well, wait a minute. Edison is going home. He still can't dress, bathe, eat, or go to the bathroom by himself. It's very normal for 80, 90-year-old. And my mom says, Doc, what am I going to do? How am I going to take care of Edison at home? Who's going to be there? Are you coming over? Is the nurse coming over? How's that going to work? So let's say the doctor says, Gigi, don't worry. Well, I'm going to give you a prescription for, let's be reasonable here, for 7 hours a day, 3 days a week. Here's your prescription for caregiving, 7 hours a day, 3 days a week. At least you'll have these hours to, relax. And my mom breathes a sigh of relief. So if my mom has that prescription, would she be able to go and have Medicare pay it? She's got the prescription. So that is a perfect example. And let's see, 67% of you guys have voted. I'm about to close it. Now listen, if you're on the fence, you're not quite sure, give me your best guess. We don't know who's voting for what. We don't pick on you for, oh, that was a dumb answer or something like that. So don't worry, we just give me your best guess, and we'll go ahead. And if you're driving, you don't have to stop to do this. It's actually a really good, wow, this is really interesting. 67% of you guys have voted. I'm going to close it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And look at this. 100% of you say, I don't know if I've ever gotten 100%. Now I have Medicaid in there too. It's a little bit of a trick question because there are some Medicaid programs that will pay for caregiving. But here's what's interesting. My mom would not be able to use that prescription for my dad. Not for Medicare, not for Medicaid either. In fact, doctors throughout the country don't really write prescriptions for caregiving because caregiving is usually a cash pay business, meaning that we get paid mostly cash for the services that we provide. So what I'm telling you is that if you get into this industry, most likely most of your income is not going to come from Medicare or Medicaid. There are some small exceptions throughout the country. We have some franchise partners that are doing some Medicaid. There's some partners that do some franchise partners that do some Medicare, but by far, it's not going to come from those two entities. And this sometimes is a little jarring for folks that come from healthcare. But in our opinion, that's great. The scrutiny of Medicare, the licensing, the slow pay, the audits you can be under, the slow pay, the no pay, the changing of rates, we're actually happy and excited that we don't have to deal with Medicare, we don't have to deal with Medicaid to build a huge business. As context, the 2.1 million that Kevin and Logan Outerbridge did in 2019, zero of that was Medicare or Medicaid, zero. So then the question becomes, who the heck is paying that bill? And when you start identifying who the payers are, that's when you start identifying how you can differentiate yourself from the 250,000 providers of home care in the United States. So here they are. We can take out Medicare. Let's not even think about Medicare, Medicaid. We can also take out, this is kind of an interesting one. You can take out the Aetna, Kaiser, Blue Cross Blue Shield, United. So my dad is Blue Cross. My dad is teaching at the university at 80 years old. He has Blue Cross Blue Shield. But Blue Cross is never going to pay for his caregiving. Even if he's still working and needs a caregiver. My dad actually teaches most of his classes from home. But Blue Cross does not pay. By the way, at 45, I'm 45 years old, I have United. United wouldn't pay for my caregiving, and they're not going to pay for your caregiving either. And it's a little weird, right, to think, wow, no government, no big healthcare insurance. So here are the payers. The payers are in the mauve, red, Amada color there. So they either are going to be, most likely, it's going to come from the Veterans Administration, it's going to come from cash, maybe workers' comp, or long-term care insurance. Those are the payers. And today, over 40% of our revenues are coming from long-term care insurance. So as we start, let's from the very top, right? Here's what we do. Here are the payers. Now let's start going down. I'm going to pick one of these payers, and let me start identifying for you why these payers have made such a difference for us. Why they've created an opportunity for families and for professionals to call on us instead of our competitors. So let me pick on long-term care insurance. And by the way, thank you so much for participating in that first poll. Here's my last poll to you because it helps me understand how many of you guys have even heard of long-term care insurance. And don't feel bad if you haven't. It's usually long-term care insurance. Well, okay, before I tell you what it is, I'll give you a couple hints and then you guys can vote on what it is. So these are policies sold by companies like Genworth, New York Life, MetLife, Bankers Life and Casualty, John Hancock. I'm not talking about policies that are sold. I'm not talking about a government plan. Any one of us can go buy a long-term care insurance policy, just like life insurance. We can go buy a policy that's really, really amazing or a policy that's not so good, just like life insurance. You can buy a $10 million policy or a $50,000 policy. But long-term care insurance, and let's see here, you guys, 100% of you guys have voted. Thanks, guys. It's really, I love when you participate. It means a lot to me. So yeah, and look, and you are actually a very good cross-section of the United States. 33% of you guys say, yeah, I'm familiar with it. And 67% have heard of it. And then every once in a while, I get a percentage of people who are like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So it's very normal. And what I imagine is I'm 45, you're probably 10 years older or 10 years younger than me. And you're not the audience. So you usually buy long-term care insurance in your mid 50s and 60s. It's a policy that's sold by insurance agents, trust attorneys, financial planners, all these folks that are starting to meet with you about your retirement. And so here's what it is. And thank you for voting, guys. That helps you understand how deeply to go into it. Long-term care insurance is a policy that covers one thing and one thing only. One thing. It covers having a caregiver, non-medical caregiver, come to your home to take care of dressing, bathing, walking, grooming, and toileting. Those five: dressing, bathing, walking, grooming, toileting. It doesn't pay for your mortgage, doesn't pay your car payments or your travel, or your medical equipment, or your surgeries, or your drugs. It only covers what we do. It only covers caregiving. So needless to say, we love long-term care insurance. No wonder over 40% of our business comes from long-term care insurance companies. It's the one thing, think about the fact that if you want care in your old age and you don't want to pay cash, it's not going to be the government, unless you're a veteran, you could get the VA. But if not, it's most likely going to be either your money, your children's money, or long-term care insurance. That has put a huge focus on this policy. The estimate is that about 15% of the US population have an active long-term care insurance policy. 15% of folks over 65 today have an active long-term care insurance policy. Active meaning they're not using it yet, they're paying premiums. This is amazing news for us because if you think about the US population, 15% of that is an insurmountable amount of people. And there's still people buying policies today. To give an idea of scope of this, Genworth, which is one of the largest writers of long-term care insurance in the country, Genworth last year paid over $1 billion in claims in the United States. So think about that for a second. Over $1 billion left Genworth's bank to pay for dressing, bathing, not for surgeries or drugs or rehab. That paid for what we do. And I was telling you how in 2020, we were $118 million in revenues. So we're tiny compared to the amount of business that's out there for us to go after. This is great news for us, but it's awful, horrible news for Genworth. Genworth, New York Life, MetLife, all these companies never expected that in the year 2021, Genworth would have spent over $1 billion. The problem that happened with long-term care insurance is they overestimated, I don't know how to say this, but I'll say it that they thought we would die a lot sooner than we're dying. In the 80s and 90s when they built these policies, the life expectancy of the average American was different from what it is today. We're living longer. And listen, even if you get that wrong by 3 or 4 years, that's 3 or 4 years more of claims that you're gonna have to pay that you were not expecting in your actuary books, in your estimations. So Genworth may have thought that, okay, in 2021, we'll pay maybe, a few $100,000. I'm sorry, a few $100 million, but not a billion. So what do you do when you're Genworth, New York Life, MetLife? You've got claims coming at you left and right that you did not want to pay. Your stock price is failing because of this. And by the way, you can actually Google this, how these companies that sold long-term care insurance are losing their money like crazy because claims are coming at them. So what you do is you start to try to decline every one that comes across your desk. When you get a claim, you try to decline it. And this is what we ran into back in 2008 when we started the company here in Orange County. 2008, we started the company. We're going out meeting with families. We're finding families that have long-term care insurance policies. And these policies can pay really well. For example, kind of a middle-of-the-road policy might pay us $300 a day to take care of somebody. That's amazing. $300 a day. At the high end, we see policies that pay about $800 a day. On the low end, we see policies that are $90 a day. And if you think about the fact that here in Orange County, we're billing about $34 an hour, if there's a policy that only pays $90, that's not going to get them very far, but it's a start. So that's why we love these policies. However, back then we would do what all home care companies do. We would meet with the family, we'd tell them, hey, we bill $25 an hour. The family would go, okay, well, I have a long-term care insurance policy. And we say, that's fantastic for you, family. Go ahead and file that claim. It's yours after all. You bought it. Congratulations. I'm so proud of you. Go and file that claim, and we'll provide a loving, amazing caregiver. The family will go, okay, that's great. It didn't matter who the family is. In the United States, before Amada Senior Care, it was really the family's job to file that claim. But the problem is that these long-term care insurance companies are sophisticated. And so the denial rate of these policies was hovering at about 70%. So 7 out of 10 of our clients that we would run into would go and file their claims. We would provide the caregiver. Sometimes then we would take a deposit from them saying, okay, well, you got to pay me cash until the long-term care insurance kicks in. File your claim. It might take some time, but then you pay me cash. But then the insurance company is going to start kicking in, and we would start providing the care. Everything was great. And then the family would come back to us with a denial letter. And what's embarrassing to say is that back then, our answer was what most home care companies answer, which is, I'm just a home care company. Remember that phrase. We're just a home care company. We don't, that's not, we provide loving caregivers. We work very hard for you. We love you like family, but we are not the company. We're not set up to file your claims for you. And so the family would have to go and fight with the insurance companies. And it's really hard to do that. But I don't know how many families we went through where we just got to the point and said, this is crazy. We've got to stop this. We've got to start advocating for these families. And that's what we did. We found out that we could file claims on behalf of our families. It's called assignment of benefit, where the family allows Amada to file the claims on their behalf. We get it pre-approved. We do the whole work for them. The family doesn't even have to talk to the insurance company anymore. We file the claims on their behalf from the beginning. And if we care for the family for a month, 6 months, 5 years, we are the ones filing that claim for the family. And the insurance company started paying us directly, and we provided the caregiver. And back then, it was revolutionary for the home care industry. There were some folks doing it here and there, but no one really doing it nationwide, no one doing it as well as we could do it. And that started to create amazing differentiation for us. Now, and obviously this wasn't something everyone knew about, but in our industry, it was a big change. That there was a company out there that was willing to advocate for the families. And for us, it was good business, of course, because if the family can't activate their insurance, what they end up doing is they cancel it, which is one of the saddest things we've ever seen. Family that gets denied, they weren't supposed to get denied. Dad is 87 years old. He's blind. He can't go to the bathroom by himself, and he's getting a denial letter. That's criminal. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's awful, because we work with the insurance companies. We can't badmouth them that much. But we decided that shouldn't happen anymore. We also started doing this with the Veterans Administration. The VA has similar issues. Not because they don't want to pay. They're a wonderful organization, but it is a bureaucracy. So our veterans are going to the VA and they try to get approved for caregiving. And a lot of times it can take them 6 months to find out if they even can get approved. A lot of times they get denied because they fill out the paperwork incorrectly. We found this as well. And we said, this is awful. We've got to change this. And so we file claims on behalf of our veterans and also surviving spouses of veterans. Some of the most amazing work that we do is taking care the husbands and wives of our veterans, who a lot of times had no clue the VA would pay for them. Yet there are hundreds of, thousands of people out there who are passing away, not knowing that the VA could actually pay for some of their caregiving benefits. So we are changing that, and we want to continue to change that. Now, and it sounds, quite frankly, by the way, it's not that we're geniuses. What it tells you is that this is a very unsophisticated industry, the home care industry. Most home care companies, I would say 90% of them are wonderful, great organizations, but they are just home care companies. To give you an idea of the microcosm of America, we are the providers of home care for the NFL. The National Football League bought long-term care insurance policies for all their players. And it's very similar to, emergency responders, Fortune 100 companies, and even sometimes manufacturing some blue-collar jobs. They'll have a long-term care insurance policy that was bought for them from their employer. You, by the way, if you're a medical device pharma, you might have something there if you're eligible for a pension. So there are lots of different types of folks that have long-term care insurance. But the NFL, for example, the players have it. And the players, when they would go file it, they have to file it, as in themselves, their kids, or their spouses. I don't care if you're Troy Aikman, if you're a really important person, or if you're just a kicker no one's ever heard of. There was no mechanism for somebody to file it for you. That's just how long-term care insurance worked in the US. But the players had recourse. The players are getting denied, and so they're going back to the NFL and going, NFL, what's going on here? You told us to play hard. Why am I getting denied? I need this help. And it's embarrassing, right? When you're in your 50s and you need help with dressing, going to the bathroom, eating. And the Alumni Association came out in full force. They said, okay, we're not going to allow this to happen. They went out to market and they tried to figure out, how do we do this? How do we turn this around? And they found Amada Senior Care. We signed an agreement with them. I think we've been with them for 3-4 years or so. And we are the providers. And the difference is that we wouldn't just do it for one player. We committed to do it anywhere, everywhere. They're in Alaska. If they're in markets where we're not in, we're not in Alaska right now, we're not in Louisiana right now, but we'll still file the claim for them, we'll process it, and we'll have a competitor provide the service because it's the right thing to do. That's the difference. And it wasn't that we beat out with the NFL, it wasn't that we beat out company A, B, C because we had better rates. No, we were the only company that would commit to filing the claims nationwide, and we still do that. Now, great that that's our differentiation, fine. But how does that matter to you? Why would it matter to Kevin and Logan Outerbridge? What do you do with this? My point to you is not to tell you that you're going to become wealthy taking care of football players, or even we put the NFL logo on a lot of our shirts and our car wraps. I'm not telling you you're going to walk into a hospital and somebody's going to look and go, oh, there's the NFL guy, bring him in. My point to you is differentiation matters. When you talk about Kevin and Logan going into a market where no one had ever heard of Amada, Passaic County, New Jersey, in 2019, it wasn't about the NFL. It was that they were able to have much better conversations with the referral sources. So, for example, let's say that their competitors are walking into skilled nursing facilities, hospitals. Their competitors, 90% of them, don't do what we do. They're not willing to file claims. So their competition, again, 90% of their competition, 90% of your competition in your market, it doesn't matter where you are, 90% of your competition, if they get access to that skilled nursing facility, let's talk about the busiest skilled nursing facility you can picture in your mind, in your community right now. Your competitors walking in there, and let's say they brought in donuts, drinks, coffee, lunches, barbecues, and they got 5 minutes at a time, the head of case management. Two things you're going to say. Two things your competitors are saying. Number one, hey, listen, case managers, I'm really nice. I'm trustworthy. This is a ministry. I was raised by my grandma. You got to trust me and give me all your business. And to an extent, we all sort of do that, right? You need to have some sort of entry to build trust with your referral sources. And they probably do a better job than what I'm doing here. And then the second thing our competitors will say, this is the big one. They're saying, oh, and by the way, I've assembled the most loving team of caregivers ever put together on the face of the earth. My caregivers love more than anyone has ever loved. They are, and here's the problem, guys. There's no such thing as a company that has a monopoly on love. We don't. Neither do your competitors. Neither will you. Because the vast majority of your caregivers will work part-time. They work for you and they work for other companies. Here in Orange County, we have a competitor called Alta Home Care. They're a fantastic company. They do about $9 million in gross billings, and we've been duking it out with them for over 10 years. They're great. They do about the same things that we do. And in fact, they hire a lot of the same caregivers that we hire. So I can never look at you or a hospital or administrative staff at a skilled nursing or an accountable care organization or a physician's group and say, oh, the reason you should work with me and not Alta, those jerks at Alta, they don't love as much as we do. And you can look at this. If you Google, I need a caregiver, and you look at everybody's websites, the pitch of the industry is, we love more. And that's the problem. There is no differentiation. So for Kevin and Logan, it was different. When they would get that 5 minutes of time with the head of case management, their busiest skilled nursing facility, that 5 minutes of time is precious. And they would be able to come in and say, case managers, listen, 15% of everyone you're going to discharge today has an active long-term care insurance policy. Or X% are veterans. For those folks, you call me and I will do the discharge process with you. I will come in, I will meet with the family, I will talk about their options to pay for caregiving. And in fact, I will activate their claims, which means I will drive them home with the caregiver. I'll make sure they go home, that they're safe, that at home they adhere to therapy, they take their medication, they have the right nutrition, and best of all, I will make sure these folks don't get readmitted. That is the big problem. That's the problem we're actually solving in the hospitals and the skilled nursing, is the fact that these case managers are discharging people left and right, and they're not staying safe at home. Remember, caregiving is not decided or figured out by the discharge planners in the hospital. It's not their jobs. They may schedule the therapist. They may schedule the nurse that's going to come by 3 days a week for 45 minutes, 15 minutes. But it's not part of the process of discharging to figure out caregiving or how to pay it. So when we come in and we meet with the family, and this is kind of interesting because if you talk to one of our competitors and you say, how much do you charge? A lot of our competitors say $25 an hour or 19 or 30. Okay, great. And then they call another one. With us, a lot of times when the family calls, how much do you charge? We say, well, that depends. Because we know that our job is to look at all the different ways this family could possibly pay for it. That's our jobs. This is going to be expensive. It's going to be tough on the family, and they need an advocate, and that's who we are. That's what Kevin and Logan Outerbridge did in their market. That's what Ken Jensen is doing in Colorado Springs. Jenny Novi, who is in Greater Chicago, she was a geriatric care manager before Amada Senior Care. She owns 3 territories of Amada Senior Care in Greater Chicago, doing amazing, amazing work. That's what makes us different. It's the advocacy. Now, you know what I forgot to tell you guys? If you have any questions, please, I forgot, please type in your questions in the question box of the GoToWebinar panel. We are live, or raise your hand. I can also unmute you. So if you have any questions in today is February 15th, 2:38, so Pacific. So if you have questions, I'd love to hear from you guys. And if this is also sometimes you may be listening to this as a recording, and so obviously you can't raise your hand. But if you're live, guys, if you have questions, please, I'd love to hear it. Now, let me do this, and I don't want to keep it for over an hour. It's 2:39. Let me switch over to the financial side because I know this is top of mind, and then I will let you guys go. We'll also talk a little bit about the next steps of discovery. And actually, Brad, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so Brad is our director of development, and so he will also tell you a little bit here at the end what are the next steps of discovery. And so I'll invite him back for him to do that with you guys. So on the financial side, so we talked about the fact that this is a franchise, meaning that it's a business that you acquire the rights for. So if you were to acquire a Jersey Mike's or an Orange Theory Fitness or a McDonald's, what you're really acquiring is the rights to the model for a period of time in the market. If you bought a McDonald's, you don't own McDonald's, you bought the rights to McDonald's. And it's usually for a period of time, usually 5, 10, or 15 years. And then you can renew that for another 5, 10, or 15 years. So our agreement is you acquire the rights for $55,000 in your market, and we'll talk about what that market means. And you have that right for 10 years, meaning you are the only Amada Senior Care franchise partner that can be in that market. After 10 years, you can renew for another 10 years. So it's $55,000 for your first 10 years, $5,000 to renew for your second 10 years. And this is in any franchise agreement I've ever seen, that's how it usually works. You have the right to renew, and you want that. Because imagine if you built the business 9 years later, you decide, well, I want my children to work in this, or I want to keep it, or whatever you want to do with it, you should have the right to go to the franchisor and say, hey, I'm compliant, I've paid royalties, I want to renew for another 10 years. Here's my $5,000. That's how it worked with us. And we have to give you the right to renew. So that's very common in franchising. And then you can keep renewing every 10 years if you'd like, or you can sell it. And so realize that, and much like if you bought a McDonald's or Jersey Mike's or Orange Theory Fitness, you have, and not all franchises, but you usually have the right to sell it. It is a business that you're building. And we've had franchise partners do that. Actually, here in the office, I have Michael Roberts here with me, and he was our franchise partner in Corona. And an entrepreneur approached him and said, I want to buy your business. And Michael said, well, how much do you want to pay me? And they came up with a deal, and Michael couldn't say no. And so he sold it. He sold his business that he built in Corona over 6-7 years. We have other franchise partners that have done that. So, so it is, you don't have to run the business for 10 years. You can sell it, you can run it, or you can also have your children or other people come and run it for you. So that's on the initial franchise fee. Now, so we talked about the fact that you acquire the rights to the model, Amada, for a period of time in a market. So let's talk about market. The market is really an important topic for us because we're not interested in being 1,000 locations or 800 and we have competitors that are that big in the United States, but it's never bothered us about being the biggest. We want to be the dominant in the best markets. So we've identified about 275 markets throughout the United States that we believe are the best markets, about 275. We're in 147 now. So we're a little bit over halfway there. And nothing wrong with companies that have 600 locations, but we decided is let's get the best entrepreneurs. Hence why we come after you guys, quite frankly, so much right on LinkedIn, because we want folks that have the ability to build this business. And we'd rather have the best entrepreneurs in the best markets, dominate those, and we believe will be the dominant force. And remember, the payers, look back at the payers. The payers are VA, cash, right? So a lot of people just pay us cash. We invoice them every 2 weeks, or we ACH their accounts every 2 weeks. And they pay us 5, 10, 15, 20 grand a month. So, and then workers' comp and long-term care insurance. So if you look at the payers, you probably don't want to be in an extremely rural market. You probably don't want to be in a very low income market. Because yeah, you may have long-term care insurance, workers' comp, and VA, but you're not going to have a lot of cash opportunities. We want you to have the best opportunities to grow the business. Doesn't mean territory-wise they need to be in Beverly Hills or Central Park or something like that. Some of our best franchise partners, one of our best franchise partners, John Merrill, is in Jackson, Mississippi, and not a place that you'd think is money bags. Michael Roberts, who built his business, was in Corona, California, which is not Beverly Hills, but you need to have a mix of income. So what we do with you is we will meet with you one-on-one as we go through this process, and you meet with Brandy, who is also our paralegal. She's really, really good with the data, and she puts together all the data about your territory. And it's a little bit more than what we're showing here, but in a nutshell, it's the demographics. We want to make sure you have 40 to 50,000 people over 65. That is the sweet spot. You need to have at least 40 to 50,000 seniors over 65, which means some markets, your territory will be bigger, and some markets, gladly, some of your markets will be smaller, which is great because you can get around it a lot faster. So that's demographics. We want to make sure it has the right mix of income. That is not 100,000 average income or 50,000 average income. It's depending on where you are. The average income for Jackson, Mississippi is going to be a different requirement than it is for Corona, California. And so, but we know what that needs to be. And then we also actually plot on the map the referral sources we're most excited about. And we give you all this information before you become a franchise partner. You don't pay us for this. We want to check the box for ourselves too, that this should be a good territory. We always tell you that, not that the territory is a guarantee of your success. The only guarantee of your success is how hard you work, because you could have the top most amazing market in the world and not have a successful business, right? Because you haven't worked it. And you look, I have some perfect examples, right? You have Ken Jensen in Colorado Springs, South Denver. Okay, you wouldn't say, I want to go there, right? Because people usually think Arizona, Florida, all these retirement places. You have Kevin and Logan in Passaic County, New Jersey. Normal. But when we go through territory with you, we'll put all those things together. So as you go through this process, you do fill out some information for us so we can start putting that together, and then we'll invite you to that one-on-one. Okay, so that's it on territory. And then you have the royalties. And I don't know, sometimes I think people don't have the right context when it comes to, well, why do you pay royalties to McDonald's? Why do you pay royalties to Jersey Mike's? Why do you pay royalties to Amada? When you've already paid a $55,000 franchise fee. So the $55,000 franchise fee is acquiring your rights to the model. It's your license rights. And you hold that for 10 years. And then again, you have another 10 years if you paid the extra 5,000, right? That's what that did. Your royalties is really what's buying your ongoing training, support, structure, software, the shifting of the industry that you ideally your franchisor is ahead of the times and helping you change with it. COVID was a perfect example. COVID really could have dealt a blow to us, but it was actually an accelerator, and we were able to deal with it as a community. It was actually amazing. It was really tough, but we actually grew during COVID. So my point to you on royalties, your job as an entrepreneur is to find that structure, that franchise, that vehicle that you believe is the right vehicle for you. That those royalties are going to provide you with the support, the training, the software, the know-how that you need to be able to be successful. And think about the fact that it shouldn't be a one-time thing. It's not just your first 6 months that you're going to get the training. Ideally, a franchisor, and I'm just talking about Amada, but a good franchisor should accompany your growth as you reach 1 million, if you ever do. If you reach 1 million, if you reach 3 million, if you reach 5, if you reach 10. Because if you've ever run a business, you know that what got you to 1 million is going to be different from what gets you to 3 million. And you need to have different coaching for that. So, and again, I'm not just talking about Amada. You should find that franchisor you believe has the expertise, has the knowledge, has the structure, the support to get you to whatever goal you want. Right? If you dream of having a business that generates X, find, my opinion, find a franchisor that has the ability, at least the know-how, to get you to that. How do you do that? Well, it's going through calls like this. It's calling our franchise partners, asking them how they're doing, talking to guys like Michael Roberts, who was our former franchise partner and sold his business. You want to talk to our franchise partners and find out how they're doing. And then you also go through our process. Our process takes about 3 weeks if you're engaged to go through. We eventually then invite you to come out for Discovery Day. And actually, I'm stealing Brad's thunder because this is what he talks about. But eventually we'd have you come out for Discovery Day and meet with actually the founders of the company, Chad and Tafa. And we'll talk about them here in a little bit. But last thing I want to give you, and then have Brad go through a little bit more about the next steps. So this is actually very important. The initial investment and the fact that this goes back to our differentiation strategy. So you see the franchise fee. You see that we estimate the initial investment to be between $87,000 to $240,000. That's in our franchise disclosure document. Now, a lot of the questions are, well, am I going to invest 84, 204, like the 240? Those are very different numbers. So let me give you what the important part of this. You see how we have that you must have access to capital of at least 200,000, meaning to be an Amada franchise partner, you need to show us that you have set aside at least $200,000. That may be from your own capital. It could be from an SBA loan. And we specialize in helping you get these SBA loans. The SBA, we're very highly rated with the SBA because of our success rate. I don't know if you know this, but the SBA actually rates franchises on a yearly basis. So if you have a poor performance, if your franchise partners are closing, if something's going on in your industry, the SBA stops lending to you, which I think is awesome. I think it's great that the SBA does that. They don't just lend to any franchisor or any franchisee who wants to buy that model. So we're highly rated with them, and we can help you learn more about how to get that loan with the SBA, or you can do it through real estate or an investor. There's several different ways that our franchise partners have achieved that money set aside. But then the question is, why? Why do you need that money? Especially when home care is not an expensive business to start comparatively. You can work out of an executive suite. You can have a desk inside of a WeWork or a Regis. You don't need to have this. You don't have to build out a whole store. There's no equipment to buy. You have scrubs that you're going to give to the caregivers. So you get a set of scrubs to give to the caregivers that are coming in. A lot of those caregivers are returning the scrubs if they're no longer working for you. So there are expenses, but comparatively not as much. So a lot of people say, why do you need 200 grand? So let's go back to differentiation. Remember that, in my opinion, and I think this is throughout the country, 90% of home care companies are just home care companies, meaning they are not going to file claims on behalf of families. So when we take on that burden, let's do some math here. Let's say that you run into a family that has a policy that covers them for $300 a day. You're excited because you're going to get paid well to take care of this family, and the family's excited. It's actually kind of fun when you sit down with them and go, wow, you have this policy that covers $300 a day. That's about 10 hours of home care. Family goes, whoa, every day? Yes, every day. We're going to be able to provide that for you. We're going to file the claim on your behalf. We're going to provide you to the caregiver. The family, it's the funnest thing to see the family, because at first they are mortified, scared. They're depressed at what's going to happen to mom. They're fighting about who's going to take care of mom, who deserves more time. It's chaos. And when we come and say, guys, we got this. It's okay. We can take care of it. Everyone calms down. So it's awesome. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go and file the claim. You're going to get pre-approved. You're going to file the claim. So let's do some math. If you're getting paid $300 a day times 45 days, because they can take 30 to 45 days for you to get paid when you first file the claim. 30 to 45 days. Let's say it takes 45. Now, you're going to get the money, but it can take 45 days. And I know a lot of you guys in healthcare, you know that 45 days is not a crazy amount of time when you're thinking about healthcare. A lot of times, if you're on Medicare or Medicaid, it can take 6 months if you ever get paid. So you're getting the money, but it can take 45 days. 45 days times $300 a day is over $13,000 that you're waiting on. But in that time that you're waiting to get paid, that 13 grand, you're still paying payroll every 2 weeks, because our caregivers are not going to wait. So you have to pay payroll. What I've just identified for you is the reason why 90% of our competition will not file claims on behalf of the family. Simply, they are not willing to wait the 45-day period. They're not not willing to file the claim, do it accurately, get it pre-approved, work with the insurance company, put the caregiver in there, pay the caregiver every 2 weeks, and wait 45 days to get paid. They're simply not willing to do it. And in fact, when we started doing that, it was scary because no one was really doing it. We were just as a shot in the dark, but we felt it was the right thing to do, and it worked. We've taken denial rates from over 70% or so, people getting denied for long-term care insurance, to if they work with us, they're not going to get denied. We're going to get them approved, and we're going to provide them with their care. But you need to be well capitalized. That's why we want our franchise partners to have the $200,000. If you have that money set aside, you will already be different, in my opinion, from 90% of your competition, who simply will never offer the service that we offer to our families, who won't be able to go into that case manager, the social worker, or the fiduciaries at Bank of America, or all these professionals we call on. They're not going to ever say, the reason you should go with us is that we are going to advocate and we're going to file the claim for that veteran. We're going to file that claim for long-term care insurance, and we're going to manage it. So this is why we talk about money a lot, but realize that as you work with our team here, it is important, not for the franchise fee, that that you'll pay that when you become a franchise partner. We want you to have the capital available so that you can pay caregivers while you're waiting to get paid from the insurance companies. All right, so we will work with you closely. After this call, you'll be working with our team, and we'll be able to really help you work through and find out the financial ability to build this business. Realize that if you don't have that capital right in your checking account right now, in your saving account, or in real estate or something like that, there are other avenues to get that, and we do specialize in helping you do that. And no time throughout our process, if you go all the way into Discovery Day, where we talked about we invite you to come out here to Orange County, and you decide that this is not the right business for you, that is totally okay. We'll never pressure you. We'll never tell you, you must do this now, or I don't know. Like it's about education. It's about you learning that this is the right business for you or not. It's about you reaching out to our franchise partners, talking to them about their business, their struggles, their successes, and you finding out if this is the right business for you and your family. Okay, So before I turn it over to Brad, just talk real quickly about the next steps. Let me see. You guys are kind of a quiet group. If you have a question, please type it in the question box of the GoToWebinar panel, and we'll be able to answer those. And you can also raise your hand, and we'll unmute you. You can ask a question live. And no, there's no holds barred. Like, there's not a question you can't ask. Anything you want to find out, you want to learn about, please, feel free to ask that question. So Brad, I covered a little bit of next steps, but if you will, can you cover a little bit of the next steps in the discovery process for everybody who's on the call?
Absolutely. Thanks, Marcos. I'll be brief with this because we have talked quite a bit about Discovery Day, territory review. I'm going to focus mainly on your very next step. So right after this call, me personally, I'm going to send you a text message with a link to a questionnaire that we ask that you fill out. And the reason we ask you to fill that out, it helps prepare the team in the territory review process, in our operations call that we have after this call, and even into the Discovery Day. Build out your territory, know exactly where you're at, a little bit of financials, just so that we know where you're at with your financials, and so that we can, build those out and have that information prepared and ready for you, so that we're better prepared through this whole process. So I will be sending that to you directly after this call. So look for that on your phone. I will be sending that to you as soon as the phone call, and then I can enter it in, and you'll be receiving that. So fill out that questionnaire. After this call, you'll be receiving a phone call from either Tim Valencia or Michael Roverbs. They're both our Vice President of Development, and they will essentially kind of take you through the rest of this process as you see on the screen. Setting up your next step with the operations call with Matt Smith. Matt is our Vice President of Support and Training, and he will be able to, on the next call that we do on Thursdays, he will talk you through more of the details of owning an Amada Senior Care franchise, the day-to-day operations. What does it look like from day one? And kind of give you a more granular look of what it is like to be an Amada franchisee. And so that will be your next call, and you'll be receiving a phone call from either Michael or Tim in the next hour or so. So look out for that. And we do ask that, go back to the questionnaire, that before you move on to the process and kind of jump into the territory, that you do fill out that questionnaire. And so that is an important piece if you would like to move forward, and if this opportunity is right for you. Please fill that out so that we can get that territory mapped out, and all the information that we need to help you better make a decision and partner with us at Amada and building your business. So after your territory review, or I should say after the operations call with Matt Smith, and I will point out, Matt actually came to Amada from one of our competitors, Alta Home Care. In fact, they are based in Southern California as well. And the Alta and Amada, we kind of been duking it out for years. Very friendly competitors. We respect one another and appreciate what they're doing as well. But we actually were able to poach him and have him come over and lead our support and operations side of the business. And he's been a great asset to us, and knows a lot about owning, not only an Amada, but also the senior care space. And so that's just a little side note about Matt as you talk with him on the Thursday call, and when we get that set up. After that call, we will set up a territory review with Brandy, our paralegal and territory manager, and she'll be able to dive into your specific territory and give you kind of a analysis and give you some demographics, exactly what you're looking at as far as geographical location, and go through that. After your territory review with her, you will do a question and answer with Marcos, and then kind of leading up towards the Discovery Day with the founders, Chad and Tafa, as you can see there on the screen. We want to meet you in person in San Clemente in Southern California, and we want you to come out and have them meet you, you meet them, spend the day with them to understand not only the business, but understand who you are, and you can understand who they are, and go through that whole process. And so that's kind of to that point, that's the rest of the process. And so kind of going back to the questionnaire, that will kind of springboard you into the next step. Fill out that questionnaire, and we'll get a hold of you, and we'll kind of help you walk you through this process to help you get all the information that you need to make a decision and start building your Amada Senior Care franchise. As I look over, I still don't see any questions. Marcos, do you have anything else you'd like to add before we end the call? Oh, we do have, I just saw a hand actually. Alejandro.
Brad,
I'm going to.
Oh, we do have a hand.
Yeah, we do
hand
have
raised.
do you want me to unmute him, Marcos?
I got it right here.
Right.
Alejandro, we unmuted you. There you go. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. How are you guys?
Hey, good, Alejandro. Thank you for unmuting. That's really cool. Tell us, what is your question?
Somebody had to ask a question before we finish.
That's right. That's right. Thank you.
No, thank you. Good presentation. Thank you, guys. The only question that I have is, do you guys have a lot of franchisees where, I'll use myself as an example, where I have my job, it's a good paying job.
Right.
We want to transition between these and possibly completely, be independent from corporate America, but you have like a spouse or a little, I don't know if it's a business partner, but somebody that can help you get the company, started, and obviously, you have to trust and, somebody that can hustle and help you grow the company. But do you have a lot of, success stories that you maybe can share with us? Because that would be my case, right? In reality, I would love to have some sort of transition period where I can get the company to a certain point where I feel comfortable just going, just going independent.
Yeah, by the way, that's a very good question. Let me do this real quick here. So yes, we do have examples of that, and we have several examples. For example, Jeff. Oh, you can see Jeff Kohler, who is a franchise partner in Colorado. He stayed at his current job. I still is at his current job, and has, I think she's a family member who ran the business, and he and his partner both stayed with their pharmaceutical and medical device jobs, and she ran most of it. And I think what happened to them is they knew that the growth would be a little slower because they were doing it part-time, but they were okay with that. They were okay with going a little bit slower. Hang on just a second here. Okay, and so I think it's identifying who that person is and knowing that if you're not full-time, is that person going to be able to put in full-time work? And by the way, we also have had examples of people who were decided they were going to quit, started a business, because it takes, from the time you sign your franchise agreement, going to training, doing licensing and all that, it can be 1, 2, 3, or even 6 months, depending on licensing in your state. And then when they finally are ready to start, they decide not to quit their jobs because they just get, it's fear. And we've had those examples where they didn't quit their jobs and then the business just didn't work because it does take attention. So we have examples on both ends. It is actually possible for you to stay at your job and have somebody run that and then when it becomes big enough, you quit and go run it with them. And in fact, as we go through this discovery process, we can get you the phone number specifically to those folks. Alabama as well, Nick Petiti was one of them. Nick stayed at his job and grew a fantastic business and then sold it, by the way. He just sold his business. And he didn't quit his job until, gosh, he'd been a franchise partner of ours for about 3-4 years, and then he quit. So we can get you in contact with those folks. It is possible.
Cool. Thank you. One more, if I may. Is that okay?
Of course. Yeah.
What, like roughly, I know I'm going to put you in the spot here, but roughly how, from the people that have Amada franchises, like how many of them, percentage-wise, roughly, started with basically self-funding versus you guys helping them with small business loans? Do you have any idea? Just
Good
trying to
question.
have an idea of like a gauge, like the success rate of those that decided to do small business loans versus just putting, you know, $255,000 of your own money into the business.
I'd almost call it 60-40, where 60% of them got funding and 40% of them just had it. It's not, it is more like 60 that had to do some kind of funding. Actually, Michael Roberts, who was our franchise partner in Corona, is here with me right now. How you actually have a very good example of how you did it.
Yes, Alejandro, how you doing? This is Michael Roberts. Exactly. So when I got in 2013, you know, I didn't have the capital personally to start up. So I did what was called the ROBS program, where I took my 401k from my previous employment and I rolled that over and funded my corporation and my business. And you know, that's still a workable plan even today. And there are franchisees that even within our system and out our system have utilized that option as well. And we work with companies that we can point you in the right direction for that as well. So yeah, so that works really well, especially if you don't have the capital coming in right off the bat, and it helps you get you up and going, and at least you have the money to not only incorporate, but as Marcos was talking about, you have the money up front to run your business. And that's from my perspective, that's what I would always encourage everybody is exactly as Marcus said it. You want to have, I believe, as much money up front as you can possibly bring, just to not only start your business, but to have as the capital to actually run it, because there are contingencies that come up, and it helps to know that you don't have to continually go back and try to find other resources to help you keep your business going, or whatever the case may be. So that is my perspective, and that seemed to work well for me. Does that
Cool. Thank you both.
Does that help?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
You bet. You bet. Excellent. Well, thank you, Alejandro. Are there any other questions? Brad, are there any other questions?
I'm not seeing anybody. So thank you, everybody, for joining. Okay. And look for that that questionnaire in your text. I'm just starting to send those, so fill that out for us, and we'll be in contact soon. And appreciate you joining, and we'll hopefully talk to you soon. Thank you, everybody.